Welcome to Happy Homes and Gardens. I'm your host. My name is Daphne Royce. I am a real estate broker, architecture, and interior designer. Established in 1954, Flegels is the oldest interior furnishing design store in Menlo Park. Flegels is a family business that has been operated by 3 generations of owners and has a long story of servicing nearby neighborhoods with high-quality products. Please welcome Brian Flegel, the principal of Flegels Design, who will share with us the services that Flegels offers and what makes their services different than others. Good morning, Brian.
Hi, happy to be here. Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Please tell us how Flegels started.
Well, Flegels started as an idea by my grandfather, Arthur Flegel, and his brother-in-law and his wife. And also he had his sister, whose husband also was involved. So it was a family endeavor from the beginning. And this was an idea that came from his ability to sell almost anything. When he was a young man, he was a shoe salesman, and he was the top shoe salesman at JCPenney. In fact, he still had, in his later years, the awards that he got as a shoe seller. So all of that went into his ability to sell almost anything. And this area, after World War II, was growing rapidly. Lots of new homes were being built, and there was a need for furniture, and he saw that need.
I remember this area was a lot of summer homes for the San Francisco residents. They just come here for the summertime and they starting to build their summer homes.
Well, that would have been Atherton, yes. Atherton was the summer home for people from San Francisco. And that goes back to the late 1800s. But Menlo Park at that time was actual homes, not summer homes, but single family homes was Menlo Park. And so there was a lot of growth here, a lot of apartments, but also a lot of single family homes. And it was very much middle to high end, even at the beginning, after World War II. But people just had a lot more wealth in this area than in other parts of the country in general, because there was always good jobs associated with California. There was always a bustling economy. So there was plenty of people that were making pretty good incomes at that time. And he didn't start out with an idea to sell expensive furniture. He sold first affordable furniture, but he purchased the land on Santa Cruz Avenue and built a single-story retail furniture store called Flegels. And it was written in like a script, like a cursive script, not dissimilar to how my grandfather would sign his last name. And at that time, just a couple of other people were working the store. My grandfather was physically selling the furniture. He was also delivering the furniture. He had a flatbed truck that he would put the furniture into the back of and drive it to home here in Menlo Park and other close by areas. And in fact, I still have pictures of that. There's a lot of great pictures from that beginning. The idea based on how he designed the store. He would design room vignettes to show furniture together with other furniture. And that became sort of the idea for interior design. So the way he put the furniture together in the store became like a inspiration for people as they walked in, and they'd say, oh, okay, this is a good idea, where they weren't just looking at single items just all in a row somewhere, where you're just like, I want a chair. Here's a whole room design. Let me think about this sofa and this chair and this table all together. And he started to work with people that knew how to put things together well. And then slowly the salespeople started to develop into, beginning interior design sort of services, right? They sort of began even from the very beginning.
So since you already seen all the furniture has been changed since 1950s to now, it's over about 70 years. Have you seen the furniture has dramatic change? For example, like the sizes of furniture, since house maybe was smaller than now, or the style wise?
Yes and no. Yeah, there's been some changes. Things always change, but then things always come back. So there, you look at different time periods, and the 50s was still a mid-century modern look, which came out of the late 40s. And mid-century modern traveled through most of the 50s on into the 60s, the early mid-60s as well. Really not until the later 60s and early 70s that things start to change from the mid-century modern look, because that was very dominant at that time. So you would go to any home and you would have that type of spectrum, the mid-century modern spectrum. Now, if you fast forward to today, mid-century modern is still popular. We still sell some companies that have been in the business of selling furniture since the 40s, and we still sell mid-century modern looks. Still a popular look. And so that has not changed. In some ways, it's become, important again in the last 10, 15 years, but it never really went away. What changed in the 80s was a very dramatic look of French, the French look, the Louis the 14th look was very big in the 1980s. Now that is not coming back. I don't know, maybe it will come back one day, but that was a very unique look for that time period. And it really came from people's wealth. There was a big surge of wealth in the 1980s, and people like to show that wealth in their homes. So they would do, large sofas with maybe very ornate designs, and they would want to show that off. And that was the feeling at that time. People wanted to show off wealth, maybe more than they do today. So there's always an interaction with how people feel about money, is how they like to design their homes. And there is an interaction with that for every time period. It's sort of an ongoing relationship with wealth and how we feel about our homes, and our money.
During the 80s, that was funny you say that. I remember in that era, we see a lot of pink bathrooms or some green or other different colors. So do you think that furniture color do change over time?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, color is very important. We are very similar to the fashion industry. So color determines a lot of style. And, fabrics are in the same, river as clothes. How fabrics are designed to look have to do with what is the color of the year or color of the time period. And so you see these recurring, and oftentimes you see colors come back just like styles. Just a few years ago, yellow was very popular, and yellow had not been popular for many, many years. And then you start seeing examples of people having yellow furniture in their house, or a yellow pillow, or a yellow bedspread. And we saw green in the last 10 years come back strongly. Now you're seeing more blue. So there's, you always notice that with fashion and with interior design. So when we go to market to purchase our furniture twice a year, we're looking at the color spectrum for what companies are showing. And then that helps to sort of give us an idea of where maybe something is going and where we should put our focus as a showroom, right? And so you have to be aware of that. But they change, so you can't connect to it for too long, or else it will go out of style.
That's very interesting. Brian, I understand you were in other industries in New York. Why did you come back to Menlo Park to work on family business? Was it a difficult transition for you?
It was not an easy golden road back into this business. But I grew up in this business from the age of 11 was when I first started coming. My father would come and take me to the store, and I would have a job to do, or several jobs. I would vacuum or dust the entire store and clean the toilets in the bathroom. And I would just be around this activity, but I had to work. So I had a very strong sense that this was a place of work, and my father worked hard and my grandfather worked hard. So it was important for my father to teach me how to work, first and foremost. Then later, I started helping to deliver the furniture. So I would go on the deliveries. I would learn how to, interact with the clients in their homes and be a efficient and friendly delivery person representing the company. And I did that, in high school, and then when I could drive my own truck, I could drive my own truck with another guy. So you start building that responsibility. By the time I went to college, which was actually on the East Coast in New York City, I went to NYU. I wasn't working in that field anymore. I was studying other things, and I was, a bartender. I worked in publishing. I did theater, but I always had a sense of that work ethic. So when I started bartending, eventually I ended up managing the restaurant. If I went into publishing, doing a fact checker, well, then I ended up doing something a little bit, more in the publishing, maybe writing little descriptions for things that needed to be written. So I never went into things lightly because I had a good work ethic inside from an age. So, fast forward to having graduated college, and I was living in New York, interacting with quite a bit about the business, and I was thinking, I'd been in New York almost 9 years, and I was thinking about coming back home to California. And so I was talking to him on the phone about my plans, and I was being, I guess the word for it is, I was being critical of what I thought he was doing. And so his response was, well, why don't you come here and show me how to do it then, smart guy. And so I kind of did, and made a plan to move back and start working again for the company. And I didn't come in as a management or anything. I came in first starting to do advertising for the company to help him market and to help him put some ads together. We were just coming into the mid 2000s, so online was just starting to pick up as an advertising concept. And so I wanted to get in front of that. And then from there, I started learning from all the managers. And for about a good, I guess 8 years or so, I was just behind the scenes, trying to learn as much as I could before I became, a store manager and start to take on more responsibility.
So what makes Flegels different than other competitors?
Well, I have to say it's our knowledge. And obviously that's reflected in the staff. So I only have salespeople that have gone to school and have received a degree in interior design. So they know it, they understand it, and they love it. And that knowledge and passion is very important when somebody is making an investment in furniture. You need to be guided by somebody that really cares about the process. And in order to do that, you also have to have, not just the education, but you have to have the experience. And most of the people that we've hired through the years have worked at many different places before they come and work at Flegels. So they have an understanding of the marketplace and of the basics in terms of selling. When they come work for us, they usually stay. And they stay because of our products. We have the best products that are available. So it's only high-end, only handmade items. About 80% of what we sell comes from the United States, from companies that have been building furniture for 50, 60, or even sometimes 100 years and are still in business making it. And we have companies in Europe that have long lineages as well. But what makes these companies so good and why they're such a fit for us is that they all have customized elements. So the interior design work comes in how we put the furniture together and how we customize it for the client. And that's the true passion of what our interior designers like to do. So if you go somewhere else that's middle of the road or maybe low end, you're just looking at somebody that's trying to sell you something and move on to the next person. And we're interested in a relationship where we're learning about how our clients live, what makes their home special, and how we can create something unique for them and their space.
How many furniture makers do you currently work with? And you mentioned 80% of the product was from US. So what other countries actually they made it from?
Okay, so there's two parts to that question. So we have any given day, we have around 15 companies that we sell customized furniture from. And the customization really has to do with all the different fabric options, all the different leather or faux leather options, all the different sizes and configurations, cushioning, welting, nail head. I mean, the sky's the limit. And every one of the companies that makes upholstery for us has a myriad of options. And so like I said, about 15 companies that we sell consistently from, but I have relationships with over 40 companies if I need to go a little bit outside the spectrum. And so primarily those are companies that I've had relationships with for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. I think the oldest company that we're currently dealing with goes back about 50 years. So we have a lot of experience working with them, and we know that company backwards and forwards. So we don't have to wonder, oh, how are we going to do this? We've done it, 1,000 times before. And the other companies that we purchase from that are not in the U.S., we have a great relationship with two companies that come from Italy. One is a very modern company that makes modern Italian high-end furniture called Bracci. And the other is the opposite end of the spectrum, and they do beautifully ornate, inlaid, and rosewood furniture from the same type of style that's been happening since the 1700s. And they're called Mobili, and they're from the Lake Como region of Italy. And we have a relationship going back 40 years with them. So we're one of the few companies in California and even the United States that is able to sell them outside of Europe. And but even he can do, his company, he can do really custom things as well. And he has done some modern things as well. So there's flexibility even within companies that normally do traditional. They can all do something that's a little bit different than their normal, depending on what we're providing for them in terms of schematics or how we're putting a furniture piece together for a home. And then we also have historically sold a company from Japan called Matsuoka, and they're a 125-year-old company, and they do beautiful, beautiful finishing, and the attention to detail is incredible. Very Japanese in terms of their aesthetic, where they consider every possibility. They finish things on the inside as well as on the outside and behind. All these places you don't normally even look at, they're thinking about. And then we have a great high-end company from Mexico City called Alfonso Marina that's been making beautiful furniture for 65 years, and we've been selling them for close to 20. And so, we like to be able to go outside of the US when it's done right and when it's done with an aesthetic, and it's nothing against places like China. I think one day they'll make a good product, but right now they don't. And so we won't buy from China because they're not making a quality product that fits with our standards. There are some good companies that are producing in Southeast Asia. Sometimes we can buy from them too, but we really have to be careful with quality control because that's our reputation.
Given that all your furniture is handmade, how long does it take to deliver an order?
Well, if you're putting something together from scratch, and so it's different if I'm buying something that's a cabinet or a desk or a chest of drawers than it would be if I'm purchasing a sofa. Both have different, time frames. But in today's world, it's much different than how it was before the pandemic. Before the pandemic, things were very sleek. Things were happening at a much quicker pace. The pandemic has slowed that down considerably. So it's starting to get back to normal, but we're not quite there yet. So I can sort of talk about, what the best case scenario is, and then kind of what the reality is nowadays. But there's a process that a client has to do to work with a designer in order to make all the choices. And there's no time limit to that, because we want to make sure that that process goes at the speed that the client is comfortable with in making the choices. We don't want to rush that. And we also want to make sure that all the elements that we're putting together are available, because fabrics are being produced at a fabric mill. We have to make sure they have enough yardage for a sofa. A sofa is going to take a certain amount of yardage. You have to make sure you have all those pieces. You have to make sure that you have the right finish. So there's a lot of interaction that goes before you even place the order. And if you're going to do a customized sofa with a customized size and custom, pillows and custom fabric, that whole process of choosing it might take a good month before you make the choices. And then from there, when you actually place the order, it might take about 4 months or so for the actual production to be completed. And then you probably have another month for it to be shipped across the country, which is usually done with a freight truck, which is the safest way. We have some clients that just came in right now. So really, you're looking about 4 to 6 months for a customized upholstery item. and maybe, a few months less for something that is what we call case goods, something made out of wood. Um, because there's not as many elements that you're putting on. You're sort of choosing a finish, maybe you're just changing a size or fitting it, and adjusting the heights. All these little things can be done without having to rely on uh, some sort of extra item. These are all done in the factory. So there'd be less time for that.
You mentioned earlier about designers. How many designers do you have currently?
Currently, we have 4 designers because we're in a new space here next to Kepler's bookstore on El Camino. We moved here at the beginning of 2020. We sold the building and the land at the end of 2019, and moved over here to this space to become more interior design driven in terms of how we showcase ourselves. It's a smaller space. The designers are all integrated on the floor, and we changed the floor quite a bit. So even the items you're seeing behind me, you might not see them in the next month or so. We like to keep our floor very refreshed with new looks, new designs, and everything here is showcase one option, right? Not unlike how my grandfather started the idea of showing room vignettes as a possibility and then letting you figure out your own version, but inspiring people with what we show. But as the economy changes and as the the real estate market, as changes, I could be hiring more designers, right? If the need is there, then I want to have as many qualified people as I can. But right now, we're good with the number that we have.
Since there's a lot of uncertainties, a lot of changes, have you seen interior trends changed in the recent years?
Yes, some changes have been, you're seeing less traditional items being produced or an interest for traditional items. Now, there are still people out there that's what they want, and they're never going to change. But you're seeing a lot of, homes that are being built in a more modern style. And so when you have architecture within a home that is looking and feeling modern, with how light comes in, with how structures are made, with how beams are placed, with how ceilings are designed, how lighting is put into the ceiling, those elements we're seeing as going more modern. So modern furniture is definitely a trend that we're seeing more of. And yeah, but that can be something fun to mix and match styles too. Transitional, which I would still count as mid-century modern look, can still work with some modern architecture as well. But in terms of some trends, people are becoming more conscious of choices that they're making. So I'm seeing more of a demand for faux leather or vegan leather, as it's called, because people care more about that than they ever have. And so we show some dining chairs here and other items that are in a vegan leather. And the technology is amazing how it's produced. It's very hard to tell unless I point it out to them. But people are starting to want that more. People are wanting smaller elements in their homes. So smaller swivel chairs, we're seeing that. But people still at the same time love large sectionals as well. But basically they want to have the choice to put something that fits in the space. That never changes no matter what. They want it to fit in the space, and everybody's space is unique. So we have to really go with what, where they're leading us most of the time.
Brian, what is your favorite interior furnishing style?
Ah, my favorite. Well, I've mentioned it quite a bit, but for my home, I love the mid-century modern look. I have a family room that's kind of dedicated to that style. I have young kids, so the older the kids get, the more I'll be able to advance the style in my home. Right now, I have to be careful not to have anything in there that's too expensive. Um, but in terms of, I love those finishes that you can see in the mid-century modern look, where you still see the grain. I have one of these old entertainment units from the 60s that plays records and radio, and it has the speakers all built in. And I have that in my family room. I have a couple of nice swivel chairs that are mid-century modern right near it. I have a little table that's mid-century modern. So I love that look. But I also, and then in the living room, I have probably just a transitional. I would call it a transitional look. Our bedroom is very transitional. The kids' rooms are just the kids' rooms. That's a whole style. Kids' style is kids' style. But maybe later they'll start to learn about it and want to do something in their rooms as well, and I'll help them with that. But yeah, and your style develops as you get older too. You start to have different sensibilities, and as your life changes, maybe like I said, your kids get older, and when you're spending more time with your spouse or your partner, you start to want different things, and your sense of comfort changes. So I think it's important to keep a flexibility there for all of us, to adapt your style as you live your life.
I think you're right about that. I even find myself to change over time. What I used to like when I was younger, I no longer like anymore. I'm changing too.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And
What do you like in terms of style now for yourself?
I travel a lot, so I collect a lot of antique souvenirs. I like that look when I was younger. I'm minimalist, so I like everything simple as possible.
Simple, yeah. Okay. So did you get rid of a lot of those collectibles, or do you still have them?
The collectibles still part of my memories.
Aesthetic.
I still have them, but I try
Yeah.
to mix match.
Yeah.
I spend some time to get rid of stuff I don't want and replace with something that can be more permanent.
Right.
It takes years to do that, but I still
Yes,
try
it
to
does.
keep. Yes, it is hard, but it's kind of, you have to work on both worlds and kind of in one.
And it's interesting. The reason why I asked that is because that's also an interior design service that we offer.
Great. Tell us about your services.
Just that change within the space. Sometimes it doesn't have to be completely, furniture driven. Sometimes it has to do with what you already have and how you can adjust it within a space in order to breathe new life in the room. And we do that as well, where we might not sell a single thing, but we will sell our services to do that. And our designers really love those types of projects as well, because they get to have fun with the space. And maybe the project ends up being window treatments, or maybe it ends up being the rugs or the carpets. But it's changing kind of the foundation of the space, or maybe how light comes in through the window. And then that can determine where things can go in the space, what colors you can highlight. We advise people on paint colors or tile or lighting. These are all things that we do that can really refresh a space where you're not having to purchase anything new. You're just changing the space and with what you have. And one thing that I like to do is give my designers freedom to do that process. So they're able to set their own prices with their time. They're able to essentially set their own schedules as long as I have all the people I need on my floor any given day. I'm okay with, if it works, somebody can spend the day going to clients' homes or going to the design center to look at new styles and choose fabrics. So there's a fluidity to design that is, like you mentioned, and like I mentioned earlier, there's always this sense of change with design. It should never be static. It should always be moving. But in terms of how I want my designers to operate, I want them to feel that fluidity as well. Because if they feel that freedom to do the process on their own, then you're going to get really advice, and you're going to get exceptional guidance.
Brian, I never told you, but I want to tell you that you guys probably had the best service I ever had for any furniture stores.
Aww.
I remember I bought a baker chair years back, and I went to your store in the morning and I told them I really want this chair. They actually brought me the chair in the afternoon. I couldn't thank you enough for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. You know, it's the little things like that that make a difference, and it's the accommodations that we do. And it's important to highlight also that we are the complete package in terms of what we offer. So I have my own warehouse with our own delivery team and our own service center. So we have control over the delivery process. We have control over bringing items to and from a client's home to try out or to see how something works. When somebody purchases something new, we'll take away the old thing that they don't want anymore. And, you know, oftentimes we can, you know, help somebody change other elements in the room physically while our guys are there to just deliver a chair, let's say. And while they're there, they say, hey, can you help? I want to move this other sofa over here. Can we see how that looks? Absolutely. That's what we're here to do. We're here to help your space look the best it can possibly look. So we're lucky in that regard, because not every company has that. Most furniture companies have to farm out delivery services, or if something gets damaged, they have to farm that out to another company, and they have no control over what that company does. But we have total control over it because it's one company, and we can set the standard where we need it to be. So thank you for saying that. That's great. I am reminded that was a good experience. Yeah, and we're very happy that you're one of our customers.
Yes, I'm a happy customer.
Yes.
How can people contact you?
Well, like I said before, we're a showroom that is right here in the heart of Menlo Park. We're on El Camino, in between Menlo Ave and Santa Cruz Avenue. We're right next to Kepler's bookstore, closer to Menlo Ave and Ravenswood. But there's a great little feeling over here. Cafe Baroni and BBC are wonderful locations to visit and have a bite to eat or a drink. Kepler's bookstore has been in Menlo Park since 1955, and they're a great place to visit. And here we are in Menlo Park since 1954, and it's a good fit. You know, here's some, it's a great little island to be on. I love being here. Great natural light. You can visit us on the web at flegels.com, Flegels. A lot of people think there's an A in the name, but it's just E's. So you can see us on flegels.com and get an idea of who we sell and some of our services. And you can give us a call. We've had the same number for 70 years. And so that's 650-326-9661. And you can just come in. We're open Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. And we're closed on Sundays. And Mondays, we hold that day as an appointment only day. So if somebody has a big project that they're working on and they'd like the whole store to themselves, then I allow that as, you know, you can come in, work with the designer that day if you make an appointment with them, and you'll have the whole place to yourself. And I think that that works really good if somebody's doing a big project for their home. You need to have the attention and the quietness in order to get it done and without distractions. And I want to give my whole space to those people because we love to do whole homes, you know, but we'll put as much energy into a whole home as we will to one room. But you know, it's all whatever you need. So Mondays are appointment only, and then Tuesday through Saturday we're open for the public.
Great. One last question for you. What are the furniture behind you?
Oh, the furniture behind me. Yes. Let's see. I'll go this way. You can see it a little bit better. So
Yes.
over here is a classic Stickley piece by a wonderful designer, John Whitcomb. And we have over here a beautiful, this is almost like our Stickley area here. But if I can go over here, we have a, oh, yep. Can you see that bed right there? That's a beautiful bed by Stickley as well. It has a beautiful custom leather on the headboard. And it's done all by hand in Stickley's process in their upstate New York factory. And the collection is called Martine. So if you come in and you like what, you know, this bed, come and ask for Martine. There's many things in the collection. They do dining. We have the dining table in the store as well from this collection. And we have some beautiful artwork that's, you know, works beautifully in the room setting. So this is just a little sneak peek, but we have a beautiful showroom. We have a YouTube video online of kind of a follow through with the space. But the best way to experience it is to come in and see it for yourself.
Thank you so much, Brian, for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Daphne. This was a lot of fun, and all the best. Thank you for inviting me.